Well, I hope that song got you just as jacked up as I
No, I
am
was
right
back
now
here
about
doing.
this show. Oh my God. Even Terry was headbanging in the background. Well, welcome to the Buds and Reality Show, the #1 Liberty podcast out of Detroit. I'm your Motor City Radical, Sean Collins, and I am here with an amazing guest, Miss Teri Batts, who happens to be the behind-the-scenes lady for Are You Smarter Than a Politician? You only get to see her for a quick, few seconds really before the show starts. I have a lot of fun with them. Teri is great. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. And of course, I'm nervous because, it's the whole first time thing, but I know you'll treat me well.
Of course I'm going to treat you well. I happen to think you're great. And you're hilarious, and we love to laugh together, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
The message should really be make America laugh again. It really
I,
needs to be make America laugh again, because there's so much funny shit that happens in our life, in our world, even in the political realm of things. Like, you can just sit there and just scratch your head and laugh, because some people are like, well, they're just people at the end of the day. But Teri, thanks for coming on. You are awesome. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to do this. I love to let parents know what's going on. Not just parents, grandparents, guardians, aunts, uncles. Everybody should know what's going on with their student data. Um, and I love to let people know that. And even more, I love to help them find ways to get around it. So that's what I hope to do tonight.
That's what this show is all about, is finding solutions to problems that we have. And there's a lot of problems out there, and I'm not saying I have a solution for everything. I might have a couple ideas here and there, but solutions are really up to the individual, because my solution might not be your solution. So at the end of the day, we just think, always question things. It doesn't matter what it is. Question everything, hold people into account, and that's what this is all about. But, you and I had a phone conversation last week, right a day or two after the show I did with Kate Fentanyl, Lady Liberty Australia. And, we talked on the phone for like 2 hours or something like that. It was a long phone conversation, which, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you guys know this or not, and you're not going to hear it because you can't hear it on the actual show itself. But this lady has some twang in her voice. You could totally tell she's a Southern girl. She's saying, no, yes, you do. You definitely do.
Yeah, baby.
That's amazing. But, one of the things that we talked about was surveillance, and not only surveillance of us, but surveillance of children. And I happened to watch a video of and I shoot, man, I can't remember where I saw the video at this point, but it raised some questions about certain things. Now, we all think it's cute when you send your children to school and get their school picture taken. It's cute. It's great. You get to watch them grow up, and nobody thinks anything of it. It's just one of those things where, like, yeah, I want to have this document of my child growing up through grade school, K through 12 or whatever it may be, and it's cute. It really is cute in the grand scheme of things. I totally get it. Now, why is it, though, that nobody's ever questioned the fact that these schools have some third-party company come and take pictures of their child? Isn't that strange? Like, I never really thought about that before, and I'm like the tinfoil hat king. Like, it's never really crossed my mind, like, hey, why is that weird? But then when you word it like that, it's very weird. And then you turn around and you find out, well, sometimes, well, not all the time, but like sometimes, wow, I just did like a Trumpism, or sometimes, but not all the time. That was a Trumpism right there. Sorry, guys. I did not mean to do that. I hate Trump. Anyhow, yeah, you are correct, Teri. These people who are strangers, they are a company that most of the time that nobody's ever heard of, come and take high resolution photos of your child, right? Now, what if I were to tell you that said companies that do this are under a big umbrella that go through a massive umbrella, right? Kind of like our politics goes. Everything's under a massive umbrella and everything's owned by a certain group of folks, right? Usually banksters, we're going to call them. Okay. Now, what if I told you that these third party companies are owned by Shutterfly, and then Shutterfly is owned by another company? And I'm not saying all these companies are owned by Shutterfly, but a lot of these companies are owned by Shutterfly. And who's Shutterfly owned by? A company called Apollo Global Management. Now, who are the three major players in Apollo Global Management? BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. Now, Teri, please chime in after that because I can keep going, but you're on here for a reason. So come on with it.
What I would add to that, and I'll give you, you used Katie Studios is owned by them, and so is Jostens. Those are the two biggest in the country. And the data that is provided by the schools to those companies in order to do those pictures is really where the problem begins. So that's what I'll let the parents and everybody out there know. That's where it actually begins when you register your student in school, but we can do that later. As far as the pictures go, it is definitely them. And it's also who and where they store their data, which for Jostens and other companies is through Amazon. Meta is another huge one that stores all of that. So they all have access to all of your student data, as well as the students get older, a lot of parent data, including the data that you use to purchase said pictures, the cute little pictures. So that's what I would let everybody know. It goes even deeper than that, but that's deep enough.
But so for the people who don't know who BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard are, they are the major players and the major donors, not only in defense, but in surveillance and data firms. Just to put that into a big, broader picture for you. And then for those of you who don't understand what BlackRock is, well, I'm going to break it down for you real quick. Like, BlackRock is responsible for the World Economic Forum, the WEF, the WEF, okay? Larry Fink, who happens to be the CEO of BlackRock, is the whole brains behind the WEF. The whole Klaus Schwab thing, Klaus was just a face, the eat the bugs and, chip track, and surveil everybody and you will own nothing and be happy. That wasn't Klaus Schwab. That was Larry Fink and the boys at BlackRock coming up with this stuff. And they're the entire brains behind the operation. So this is why this is such a terrible and awful thing that is happening, that your schools, the institutions that are supposed to be protecting your children, are giving your information to these people. And that's a problem. Take it, Miss Teri.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. If you guys out there notice, every year this happens at about the same time of year. So what happens is we'll use Jostens and Katie Studio. We'll go to the school, the individual school, and it doesn't necessarily have to be public school. That's one thing that I want to make very clear. Any school that in private school, homeschool, it doesn't matter. It makes no difference whatsoever. They take pictures at every level, all the way across the board in colleges even. So they come to the school themselves and they ask for data, and that data is willingly provided. There's no signature. Basically, there's nothing identifying them as a legal person to be able to receive the data. What they ask for at I'm going to use elementary school level, is they're going to get your student's full name, what's on the birth certificate, your student's date of birth, what school they go to. They're also going to get their grade level, and if they're taking everybody's picture in kindergarten during what would be called like a second period, Then they get who their second period teacher is, and they get contact information for the parents, either a phone number or an email. That's the lowest level of data that's received. Anything after elementary school, the level of data received goes up, and they get even more information on your student. And I'll stop that right there so that everybody understands that it's an ongoing thing, and it happens every year. So in pre-K, they got the first list. Jostens, let's say, got their first list. So in pre-K, all the way through up into college, they have your students' information year by year, a picture year by year, and other additional biometric style data that they can collect from the school as your student gets older. Okay.
Okay, now let's talk about that, because isn't there something called FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act? Now let me explain FERPA real quick. I'm going to read this off my phone. FERPA is a U.S. federal law that protects the privacy of student education records, giving parents rights to their children's records and transferring those rights to students once they turn 18 or attend college. It ensures schools receiving federal funds must protect sensitive student data like grades, transcripts, disciplinary records, generally requiring consent before disclosing them, with specific exemptions for things like directory information and legitimate educational interests. But you beg to differ on some of that. So please enlighten us on that, because that explains that these children are protected through FERPA, but you have proof otherwise.
It's definite proof. And I guess here might be a good spot, Sean, for me to say what exactly my expertise would be in this and why I want people to understand that when I say this, I can back everything I'm saying. Okay. I have 20 years of experience at the school board, local, county, and state and federal levels as far as data for students goes. That was my thing, one of them. And so when I say this, you're going to say, well, that's not what Sean just read. Well, guess what? That's okay, because it changes, and it changes all the time. He used a couple of keywords. He used the words eligible student. So all students are eligible. That's a joke. Okay. Every student is eligible under FERPA. Doesn't matter who they are, where they came from, nothing matters. The other thing that he said is certain data is supposed to be held back. That is not true. They transfer your data every time a student moves from one school to another. They transfer data every time they send up testing information. It has extensive information about your student, and that starts also in pre-K and kindergarten. They transfer all information all the way up to the World Education Forum, which is not the economic forum, but it goes all the way from the school that your student is in into world records, worldwide records, because those are all eligible recipients of that data. Okay. And there's two types of data, two types. They're going to call it like a demographic data. And then, like you said, transcripts, grades, disciplinary action, all that stuff. That is also eligible to be sent anywhere, even though what you said makes it sound like it's not. I sent it myself. it goes everywhere, and there's actually it's actually very scary, because 96% of school systems have unprotected computer data systems. 96%. And that's 100% true. So every time they collect data on attendance, discipline, or anything like that, all of that's eligible to any third party that has a contract with the local school board, your school, your state, or feds can get that data. Anybody.
Wow. And here we are thinking we're sending our children to these schools, to get an education. They're going to be protected. Their information is going to be protected. Their privacy is going to be protected and such. And none of the above are happening. Number one, there's people, there's bad people who can come into a school with a gun and shoot it up. Number two, they're literally willingly giving your children's data away to the enemy. And I don't care what people say. These central banksters who are, and that's what they are. They are banksters. These are gangsters who have an endless supply of money. Okay. And you're giving, and I'm sorry, you're not giving. The schools are giving your child's information to these people. Full stop. The parents need to stand up. And it seems like in some cases that some parents have stood up.
Yeah.
But then what happens is the most nefarious thing of all, the parents stick up for their children, and then the state turns around and pulls federal fucking funding from the schools. Your tax dollars that you paid for your said child to go to said schools gets punished if they don't comply to these actions. This is insanity. So where does it end? Like, how do you fix this? How do you ratify it? I don't have the answers to that. The only thing I could say is yank your kids out of the public school system immediately. But then you've also, Teri, pointed out something to me that even homeschooled kids' data are being shared because, well, parents do have to record their kids' homeschool data to the state. It's a fucked up situation, but here we are.
I just want to add to what I just said, because I want people to understand that FERPA does not protect your kids' health records either that are turned into the school. And it also immediately, without parent notification, goes to any mental health program that your student is involved in school. Subpoenas that come from the court system, it's automatic, no questions asked. They get anything they ask for. The military gets anything they ask for when they reach at the high school level, and they actually track your students from 9th grade on. So it's even broader than just the pictures, even though the pictures are probably one of the worst things with what's called scraping that happens now. They can scrape your students' pictures. All of those companies put the pictures online. You go online to order your kids' pictures nowadays. So anything that's online can be scraped. So it doesn't even have to be a data breach. They can just go online on Facebook or Jostens or wherever and scrape the picture and use it from there on out as biometric data to track your student, or to use it for other nefarious reasons online, which I'll leave to everybody's imagination. And I wanted people to know that there are things that parents can do, even homeschool parents or guardians, that it'll protect your student to a certain degree. Every year, the school is required by law to give this FERPA information to you. And every time you register or make a change for your student, you sign documents. On those documents, it actually says allowed to take pictures, allowed to give information out. It actually says they're allowed to do all of that. But parents don't read it. They just sign it. They sign it. That's it. They don't even read it. They don't even know they're doing it. So every year when they send out that information, and anytime you want to go to your school and get it changed, you can. That is your legal right under Parents Protections Act. You can go in and request that you can opt out of all of the pictures and all of the data being sent out. And that's fine when your kids are little. That'll stop it to some degree. It won't stop them from sending it to the state or to the federal government or anything like that. It will stop them from giving it to Justin's studio. And you can go take your own picture every year, first day of school picture or whatever, whatever you decide to do. After that, though, when your kids get older and they get into high school, or even in some middle school or junior high schools, they they start playing sports or join the band, or they're doing acting or cheerleading or softball or whatever it is they're doing. If you opt your student out of pictures and data, your student's not going to act. Your student is not going to play because they can't film your student. So they won't have your student on the field, period. Um, Same thing with the band. Those are all filmed. They're used for a lot of things later on to get your kids into college and things like that when they're in high school. So opting out at the high school level may not be what you want to do depending on what your kid does at school. So parents have a lot to think about and what and how they want to do it. That works for kids that are homeschooled as well, because a lot of homeschool students go to the high schools for culinary arts or sports or something like that. So you still have to do it. If they're going to go take an elective class or play a sport at a high school, you still have the right to opt out of that if you don't want your student being filmed during a game or performance.
Now,
If
how would one parent do that though? How would one parent opt out of
all
those?
you all
Just
you have, a lot of counties do it online now, but if
would
not,
that be safe? Would that be safe because it's
I
on?
I would not do it. Okay, I would not do it. I would personally go to the school, and they all have forms. If they say they don't have one, that's okay. That's fine. You can write it yourself. You can write a note that says, I do not want my student doing this or being, photographed or any data given out, or however a parent decides they want to word it. Even if they don't have a form, you take that to the school, you get the school to sign it, get a copy of it. Whoever takes it from you can sign it. Trust me. Whoever takes that form from you can sign it. Make them sign it, get a copy of it, take it home with you and say, let me catch you doing this, please. Because that's a whole new ball game. That's a legal document that you can even ask them to put the school seal on it. And it becomes a legal school document that has to be kept in their folder. That's my number one thing for people to do, is go to the school and do it. Don't back down. Don't wait for them to ask you.
Now, just to put things into perspective for you guys right now, and I just thought about this 15 minutes before this show started when I was talking to my wife. Have you ever gone on Instagram or Facebook or maybe even X? I've never seen it on X, but I've seen it on Instagram or Facebook where you can take a picture of yourself and it will either show you, say, 20 years younger or 20 years older. And it's pretty spot on. It's pretty close. How the fuck do you think they can do that? How do you think they can do that? Well, for what we're explaining right now, right here, they've had your picture your entire life. They watched you grow up. Now, I don't know how long this has been going on with the school picture thing and stuff like that. I don't. Oh, come on. Teri said she does. Come on, tell us, please.
It's been going on since the late 50s. Yeah. Before there was even FERPA to protect people. It's been going on for a very, very long time. And again, I just want to remind everybody that 96% of school programs are not safe to begin with. And then they're sending your information to Meta, which is, you got Google's got it, Meta's got it, Facebook's got it, Instagram's got it, everybody's got it. So, well, you might as well say everybody. And if they don't have it, they can scrape it, what they call scraping. They can scrape it off the computer from anywhere and store it and use it year after year after year. It's not just individual pictures either. It's also group pictures or team pictures that they
That's
can do that with. So that the same thing applies to any of your students that are playing Little League baseball or playing Pop Warner football or cheerleading or dance class, or anytime you have your kids' picture taken, anywhere to do anything. It's the same companies and the same people own it and the same people have access to it. That's
I'm gonna,
scary.
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick because
Yeah.
Ocean says, "Hi, Teri Bear. What's up?"
Hi. Hi, Patty. Hi, Patty Bear.
And then we got Free. That is also a disadvantage to kids who have family issues. You are
Very
correct.
true.
Dude.
Very,
It's so
very
true.
true.
Because
It's
they're the
all
ones who are getting bounced around from school to school to school to school, and each school sharing their information over and over and over again. It's not safe. It's not safe to send your children to school. That's the bottom line. I don't know what to tell you guys. And I do know that I have people who listen to the show who are working with the public education system. Please stop. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. And I can tell you how to make a lot of money, my friends, my teachers, my fellow educators. I'm not an educator, not my fellow educators. I'm retarded. I'm not an educator. But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Educators, people who are dealing with children and teaching them on a daily basis. I can teach you how to not only give children an education and protect them, but make you a lot more money on top of it. Hypothetically, hear me out. Just so we can put an end to this craziness. It's insanity that they are giving away your children's data. Like stuff like this makes me happy that I never brought kids into this world because I'm not mentally capable of dealing with stuff like this. If I knew that people were giving away my children's pictures, well, they might be tree ornaments somewhere. I'm just saying. I'm just saying because that's how I am. You're not going to do this to my family. I don't care if it's my nieces or nephews at this point. But here's what you can do, teachers. You can get with like-minded parents who want out of this, right? And start yourself a pod system, right? And everybody's big thing is, well, the classrooms are too big. The classrooms are too big. Well, why don't you set up a situation? It doesn't have to be a pod. It could be in someone's basement or somebody's den or somebody who has some more room where they could have a few people in their house. Take 15 to 20 kids at best. We'll say 15, right? And each parent has to pay, say, $50 a day per student, right? $50 a day per student. $50 per day times 5 is $250 a week per student times 15. Do the math. That teacher's going to make tenfold what they're making through government run schools. Your children are going to get an education. You're going to have a say on what's going on in your child's education. And this whole school picture thing is null and void at that point. Like, why can't we do that? And I know not everybody can afford that. I understand that. I do understand that. But how much are they taking out of taxes for the schools per se? Like,
I
you know,
I can answer
you
I
know
can
the
answer that.
percentage of that?
Yeah, I do. It's 6 to 10% per average, 6 to 10% nationwide. So very little. This is a whole nother area for me, but that's a very small amount that goes to each state. Your state, if it's 6%, that's all they're getting. The rest of it is on your property tax bill when you pay it. You know, one of the things that people complain about is how much they have to pay for schools on their property taxes. That's why they're only getting 6 to 10%, and depending on the state, and the state's paying for the rest of it. Yet we're all tied to federal requirements, guidelines, and laws, and curriculum and other issues. And that is a whole entirely different topic. I want to touch real quick on what Free said about uh, students with issues. Those students typically have, okay, we'll pretend there's a divorce and the student stays with both parents, you know, on and off. Okay, whatever they have set up. In order for the school to accept that, the parent has to turn in their divorce papers that shows when the parents get and who gets what and who has educational control and all those kind of things. So now your divorce papers have become a part of that issue. as far as shareable data. Then because that is a demographic lowest level data point. Okay. Lowest level, like bottom line, lowest level. So somebody that wants to come in from the school system, the state, the federal government, or anybody that is authorized through FERPA, which is just about everybody, can come in and ask to see your student's file. And there's your personal divorce decree. There is your personal adoption papers. There's your personal citizenship. There's your personal. The list just keeps on going on and on and on. So now you've even given more information to the school. The disadvantaged students also that have family issues are also typically in, as soon as the counselor finds out that the student is from a split family, regardless of what the family type is. If they're from a split family, they automatically are monitored for mental health issues, which means they have a mental health file now, which means that all goes to them. So anything you can think of that happens mentally, physically, or educationally to your student, including their family life, is part of a school record. Everything. So I need people to understand that. And who is the most disadvantaged of this is the poorer communities across the country. They have the most issues, single household parenting, all those kind of things going on. And if they receive any type of free lunch, food assistance, they're on Social Security, maybe disability for a disabled student or something like that, that even opens it up more. It just gets deeper and deeper. Anything you can think of, the school has access to.
Man, you're really trying to trigger me right now because I want to
Yeah.
break at this
Boom.
point. Like,
But
no. I really want to pick my table up right now and smash the fuck out of it.
yeah.
Because privacy and intimacy, as far as we know it, it will be a memory. And they're collecting your children's information.
Well,
Fuck my information. Fuck your information. Fuck every adult's information. They're taking children's information. This is not okay.
From the age of 3.
This is a full stop situation here. I don't care.
Yeah, they don't
anymore. I'm almost a 46-year-old man at this point. I don't care. My information's out there. They already got it. We need to protect your children's information, the people listening, your grandchildren's information, whoever's listening. You need to be doing this. And if you are not willing to protect your children, no matter what the situation is, whether it's surveillance or molestation, whatever it is, if you're not willing to protect them at all costs, you should not be a parent, period. I'm tired of this shit. It makes me so fucking angry.
Yeah, that's well, parenting is, and okay, I'm gonna make people mad now. The ideal situation is to not have the public school situation at all. And I know you're going to clap. That is 100% not feasible. It will not happen. And the reason for that is because of the lack of parent involvement. And as an example of that is what we're talking about right now. There are millions and millions of parents across this country that have zero idea that this is going on. Zero. And the worst part, they could care less. They just want their kid to go to school.
Can I interrupt you real quick? Because this is a really good question. Rude said, how does this interact with HIPAA protections over medical information? That's a really good question, Rude.
Yeah, that is a good question, Rude. And what happens is if your student, and I'll use diabetes, that's a common illness nowadays. So your student goes to school and they have to take insulin, let's say once a day at 2 p.m, or has to be monitored or whatever. And they're young kids, they're 5, 6, 7 years old, type 1 diabetic. And so the parent, in order for their student to get what they need at the school, because it's during school time, there's a process where they bring that information in and they actually sign away those rights. So now not only it, like I said earlier, all health information that you turn in is available um, through the school system. And it is transferred with your student when they go from place to place or withdraw from place to place. There's a form they fill out, and that the schools also store the medication that's needed. The parent provides it, and the school administers it. And then also, any kind of testing that needs to be done if they have to have their blood sugar checked, let's say, you know, maybe an hour after lunch. So every day, an hour after lunch, the student would come down and have their blood sugar tested, and that's tracked and monitored. It's in their health file at the school. And when the parent signs that information or signs the forms that says the school can do that, they're giving the school the authority to have that data and forego the HIPAA laws. The same thing applies to any school emergency. And I really, I could go into like school shootings and stuff and what that would cause, but it's all, every bit of that is available. Unfortunately, Rude, that's the way it works. But the parents are the ones signing that right away.
Now, just to put it in perspective for people who don't know, HIPAA is Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. That's what HIPAA is. Wow. And none of that even matters. None of it even matters. Good God. Now, I really need to watch how I word this, but I might not care how I word this. The school system is giving information to BlackRock. Now, like I said before, BlackRock is Larry Fink. He is a major player in all of this stuff, right? As a matter of fact, Larry Fink was in the conversation to either be the Fed chair or the Treasury Secretary, one or the other during the Trump campaign, which should be absolutely terrifying, to anybody. But anyways, it didn't happen. Thank you, Jesus. Seriously, thank you. That didn't happen. Not to say that whoever they choose is going to be better, but it's not going to be him. But here's the thing. Larry Fink has ties to Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel has ties to Jeffrey Epstein. So then please stop sending your children to these schools who are collecting data and sending these information to these people that do nefarious things. Like, I don't even want to get into all that stuff. We all know what happened on Epstein Island. Anybody who listens to this show knows what happened to Epstein Island, and the dots connect, every single one. And now your children's information is being sent to these people. Knock it the fuck off. Get your children out of there by all means necessary. If you have to live poor to educate your child, please do that. We are in a situation where your children are not safe, period, especially at the places where they're supposed to be the most safe. It has nothing to do with school shootings anymore. They're giving your information to pedophiles. Full stop. We have to stop this.
I'm going to go a little bit beyond that, because I mentioned, as we were talking before the show, with the advancements going through AI right now, the school systems have themselves, besides their data systems and besides the picture taking process that releases that data, they have also added some different things. As you guys know, because of violence at schools, a lot of cameras have been added in schools across the country. And those, in some counties, like the one that I'm in, those cameras are monitored all day by people sitting in a county office somewhere, just like they were a security guard at the mall or something. So there's somebody sitting there all day watching all of the monitors for every school across the county, from kindergarten on up. And because that is transmitted through Wi-Fi to all of the different locations and then stored, that is also available. So they're doing surveillance on your student every day. And they're now using that surveillance for a couple of different things. And this wasn't This is growing at a very rapid level. They're using it as to determine, let's say something happens in a gym and there's a fight, and they can't identify two of the kids that were in the fight. They then use that data and uh, the equipment that they have, and they run it through all of the pictures and all of the videos and attendance stuff and everything for the kids. And they say, okay, that's who those two kids are that we're fighting. And we know that because we had them on surveillance going to the lunchroom at 5 o'clock, and we can match the pictures. Okay. So it now it's turned into surveillance. They've also started using eye scans for to buy your lunch. So or check out a book at the library, the media centers and things like that. So eye scans have come into play, and they're also fingerprinting students as well. So, and just so you parents know, you can't opt out of a security issue. You can't ask them not to do surveillance on your student. They're going to do it. They have to do it for security reasons. Would you like another one, Sean? I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. This is not funny at all. But people are always so shocked when I tell them what's actually happening, and that scares me because kids are being hurt. If your student is in the 5th grade right now, and I'm just pulling a grade level out of thin air, they've already got everything they need for life.
Wow.
So, what do you do about that? And like I said, once they get to high school, they've got you, because they won't take a picture of your kid or anything unless it's under surveillance somewhere in the school.
See, now what I would do about that, I can't say on camera because the feds are kicking my door. I'm not going to do that. You guys can take it from there. You guys know who I am. You know what I would do. Rude. I'm going to need to have a discussion with my kids' school staff. No health stuff like that on my end, but I'd point out that allowing them to access doesn't give them authorization to disseminate that data unless it's specifically noted in the waiver that gets signed. Rude, you're on point, bro. Daniel, I got fingerprinted in the 3rd grade back in 1983. My dog, you were fingerprinted and toe printed the day you were born, the day they gave you a number that said you are now cattle for the tax system. But you're not wrong. You are definitely right. Oof, I'm glad my county in Florida isn't like that. Very dystopian to live in some places. Teri, do you want to break the news to him?
I'm sorry, Rude. The state of Florida is where I'm at. The county of Florida is at school and school board and everything that I represented for 20 years is in the state of Florida. So it doesn't matter what state you're in. Let me make this really clear. These are federal. FERPA is federal. It is not state. It is not county. Nothing like that. It is federal. The Department of Education is alive and well. I don't care what they tell you. They have not gotten rid of one single law, rule, or monetary purchase of your state's rights. They have not gotten rid of any of that. So sorry, Rude, but I will help you, buddy.
No, please. If you guys have children in Florida that you're worried about, reach out to Teri. She'll tell you.
It's federal. It's federal. And you had mentioned something earlier about they find the state or the county back if
the school itself. They told them to find the school.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories about the school system is students that have learning disabilities, you get more money for. Students that don't have English as a first language, you get more money for. Okay. So they're monitored and audited at a much higher rate by the federal government than a standard everyday student. with no issues and speaks English. Okay. That they're totally different. And years ago, I changed 2 numbers around in a date, quite by accident. Okay. That particular file got audited. I think Free just probably did negative 200 because I did it backwards. Never mind. Okay. So it's 200. I switched the 2 numbers around. That file got audited. When the fine came in for my mistake, which made it look like the student was not receiving the services they should have been. Okay. So in this case, it was hearing. Okay. So they weren't getting the services for their hearing that they needed. That's what it looked like in the file. It wasn't true, but that's what it looked like. It was a $65,000 fine.
Wow.
You only get $9,000 a year for that student, but it was a $65,000 fine. That's how. Now I want you to put that in place with the Department of Defense never being able to pass an audit. Okay, so I put it in perspective here. So somebody that's down there at your school, this is how close they're watching this. They could care less what the Department of Defense or whatever they're calling it nowadays. They could care less. But boy, you mess up on a student record and you're going to pay. Now, you can fight it, which I did and won. So we didn't end up paying the fine. But when we got the bill and the audit records, it was $65,000 for one date turnaround.
Wow. But hey, man, Donald Rumsfeld can lose $2.3 billion, the day before the towers go down and everything's fine, act natural, right? I mean,
that's 100%.
Actually, the Pentagon has failed multiple audits. They failed the last, I don't even know how many.
7. I can answer that. 7. Number
7?
8 coming up. Number 8 coming up.
Oh my God. So for fuck's sake, the Department of Defense can lose trillions of dollars. But man, if the school system does anything outside of what the government wants, man, there's going to be hell to pay. Look, you guys, you need to really put this into perspective. You really need to watch what you're sending your children to, and really just kind of take this conversation. Please, for the love of God, go look this stuff up. You can find it, man. We're not just talking out of our ass.
No.
Nobody has diarrhea at the mouth here. Nobody does. No. We are bringing you straight facts about what is happening to your children at this very moment in our lives. And they're not safe. They're not safe. So why would you send your kids to a place that's not safe? I don't have the answers. I don't have kids. If I had kids, I would not send them there. But I know every parent's situation is different. But what if I said this? And I saw this on a podcast somewhere. I can't remember whose podcast anymore. It's been quite a few years since I saw it. But said individual said, hey, I'm sorry, not verbatim, but, in so many words, I'm sorry, not sorry. But hey, parents, you have not been raising your children. You have sent your children to a babysitter for the last, say, 13 years when you say, K through 12, right? And you let the state babysit your child. And said child came home and had dinner with you, and you guys might have played catch or done some things or whatever, but you didn't raise that child. The state raised your child. That's who raised them. And so if you're wondering why these kids have lost their ever-loving minds, hey, man, you sent your kids to school. And this is where we're at right now. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of parents. And it's not your fault. You're busy. You have to go to work. You have to provide. You have to make sure your kids can go to school and have a coat on their back and a roof over their head. But you've literally let the state babysit your child and raise your child for 13 years. That's why we are where we are today. There's no other way to sugarcoat that. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it because I'm not Willy Wonka. I'm Sean Collins, your Motor City Radical, and I'm going to tell you radical things. And the radical thing is that you did not raise your children, the state did. And I'm sure Teri has something to say about that.
That's very true, and that there's no getting around that, and that's why I say that there's no getting rid of public schools anytime in the next probably century. But that's just the way society is. Uh, My concern has always been the actual student, because there's so many things that can happen to a student in their lifetime. Some great and fantastic things and some not so good things. They might get in trouble at school or do something. A lot of the kids I worked with, which I loved doing, were, I'm going to refer to the bad kids at school, which have always been my favorite. And, it's, they do a lot of things. They're doing drugs, they're robbing people, they robbing at gunpoint, the Burger King as an example, or something like that. And that's all part of those records. It doesn't go away, and those records are forever. Those records are not eliminated. They're put in. It's not like your student graduates and then 3 or 4 years down the line they delete all of those records. They don't. They don't. They're archived and they're kept forever. They're not going anywhere. There there's not a 10-year there's a 3-year rule for minor disciplinary action. There's three After 3 years it can go away. There's a 2-year rule for, or law, however you want to put it, for attendance. But for the grades and the transcripts and their actual file with the actual documents in it, they're all of their data that's keyed into the computer system, including health and mental health, including discipline, arrests, time spent in juvie. All of that stays. It doesn't go anywhere, and that has always bothered me, because you can do some pretty stupid things when you're a kid. I did myself. So, you don't want that around forever, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. So, the school systems, that there's a couple of things that can be done at the local level to change some of this, but they're going to be fighting the state because the state's going to want the money. And like you said, feds take the money as soon as the state stops doing what they want. Okay. So it's a real battle. You can't, there's a no-win situation going on if you have to have your kid in public school. There's a no-win situation. So all you can do is work around it and try to, you protecting yourself like you're working as if the school system, as if you're your student's lawyer, and you're trying to protect them from going to jail, or however you need to put it in your own mind. You're trying to protect them and legally protect them, because you are the parent. You are the legal person in charge in Florida until they're 16. You are the legal person in charge. So you have to look at it like that. It's a battle that you need to go through every single year that your student is in a school. Go up and ask to see the records. Say, bring me my student's file. I want to see what you people have in there. I want to see, did the counselor talk to my student last week? If so, I want to see the notes. I want to see the records, because that's in there too. You have a right to see everything, and you have to take your rights and use them to the best of your ability to protect the student. That's the only option you have if your student has to be in public school. The other thing I want people to and I told you I would do this. So I've been released. So I no longer have to keep my mouth shut. So
Here we go. Come on.
yeah, I'm just going to tell a quick story that shows you how people like me that worked in the school system, that hate every bit of this, how we get caught in this catch 22. Okay. People can come in and get your records all over the place. All right. But I monitored, ran reports, did all kinds of stuff all the way up to the state level. So actually the federal level. This one address kept popping up over and over and over again. Like every 3 weeks, this address would repeat. And I was like, nobody moves that much. What is going on at that house? So I watched it for like 2 months, and sure enough, it happened again. It is against the law. I can be arrested and taken to jail for even saying what I was thinking because I thought it was a trafficking situation. It was always 3 girls. They were always from the same, they were all from South America, every single one place or another, or Mexico or South America, every single one of them. They came to school dressed like they were going to be walking the streets and charging money for whatever they were walking the streets for. Um, and it just kept happening. So I took the information and turned it into the friend at the police department, and they busted a huge trafficking ring for girls and boys in, I'll just say where it's in Howie Hills, Florida, where they were staying in what used to be an old migrant camp years and years and years ago. And now I, as an employee, could go to jail because I circumvented the law and went behind the school system's back and turned the traffickers in. Okay. So anytime you notice something like that, and it happens a lot, it happens a lot because you see things all the time. So your mind kind of goes, there's something wrong with this. There's a student's missing Tuesday every day, every Tuesday for 4 or 5 months. What's going on Tuesday? What the heck is going on Tuesday? Because it's always the same day. No parent notes, no nothing. Something's going on Tuesdays. So, you start to catch on to things like that. And if you report it, in that case, it was an even worse situation. But if you report that, you go to jail if you get caught. I was fortunate enough to have a friend I could trust in the police department that was able to handle that for me. But that's what happens.
Not to make light of the situation,
Yeah.
but you should be a detective, number one, because you figured all that out. And number two, because your last name ties with the song. Bat Teri. You figured it all out.
I'll release a big secret. I'll release a big secret.
You are Bat Teri. You are Teri Batts, Bat Teri. You have done the most wonderful thing I've ever heard in a very long time and broke up a pedophilia ring. And I really, really, really hope in my anarchist heart those people are dead.
They're in jail. They're in jail.
They won't be in jail for long because what people don't understand is that there's a better etiquette in prison than there is in the United States government.
That's
you
true.
will get murdered in prison for molesting children, but protected by the president of the United States. Let that sink in for a minute. They will fucking kill you in prison if you touch a child inappropriately, but the president of the United States is protecting them.
Yep. Well, there, and I would say to parents and guardians or foster parents, I don't care who they are, if you're responsible for a child, you would notice those things too. There's really nothing special about that. You might have, as your kids get older, there's a lot of things that go on. Even when the kids are younger, maybe Sally can go out to play every day but Wednesday. Why is that? Maybe she can't come over on Wednesdays, but why? Does she have dance class? Well, you would know that. That wouldn't be a big deal. I'm going to dance class today. That wouldn't be a big deal. The people just need to be aware that things happen to kids all the time. And when you work in the school, you see it happen. all the time. And it matters. As a matter of fact, that's why I'm not in the system anymore. I had things happen that I couldn't deal with anymore and got out for that very reason. So, and that's a story I don't want to talk about right now. But there's all kinds of things going on at your school. When your kids come home and tell you two kids got in a fight at school, don't say like we used to say, that's no big deal. They'll be playing in the playground next week. They could also get stabbed the next day at school. Find out who find out who got in a fight. If your kid knows who they are, if they're friends, you got to get your nose all up in their business, at least until they get older. Because as they get older, they'll come home and unknowingly tell you everything that's happening. But and it's online. So they put everything online. So, you know, but yeah, you just be aware and know that the school is not, it may be necessary, it may be a necessary, but it's a necessary evil. And you need to remember that when you're working with the school, and don't let them tell you that you can't do something because it's what's my word? It's horse pucky. They 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 can't. And if somebody ever tells you that, send me a freaking DM and I'll give you the law to shoot back in their face. It's that simple. Yeah. And as soon as you tell them you know what you're talking about, they're done. They will give you whatever you want. And because they don't want to have the fight, they don't want to do that. So, and I
And,
quit working in the system and I was the biggest fighter. So there you go.
but that's part of the problems is not only are parents clueless of what's going on
Yeah.
with their child at school, they don't necessarily want to believe anything as bad is happening over there either. They're like, well, they're at school and they're safe.
They
That's
are at school, and honestly, I will say a large portion of people who work in the public school system take the responsibility of the students that are on the campus while they're on the campus at a very serious level, a very large number of them. Uh, I realized that when I was at the school and at work, all 2,600 kids were my responsibility in one way or another. Okay. So whether it was coming in and out of my office or I was out on the football field or wherever, sometime, somewhere, they were part of my responsibility. And a lot of people in the school system feel that way as if they were their own child, to a large degree, as if they were their own child. So not everyone in the school system is like that. It's the system itself. And then it's also some people in the system that just don't care anymore, or are just there because they get the summers off or something like that.
right. Now, what if I were to say that all federal funding came with strings attached? What would you say to that?
Not only does it come with strings attached, but they will use those strings to choke you with if you allow it to happen. They will literally use those strings. So your 6 to 10% that you're getting from the federal government, they actually own everything your school does. They own it, even though the state itself is paying the 90% of the cost of running that school is paid for by the state. But the state won't fight back for that 10%. And we can go further into that at another time about how you can get away from that. But and there are ways to get away from it. But you, uh, that's what you have to remember. It's still the federal government that's controlling everything that's happening at your school. And I can spout off 50 laws you can go look up. Or if you want to take notes, you can go look at IDEA or ESSA, or go check out FERPA, or go do this, or you can go look at any of that stuff and you'll see that they own your child. they they bought and paid for your child for 8 to 10% of the cost of the school. It's
Isn't
the
that something? Isn't
yeah,
that
that's
something? Now, to close this show out, what do you have to say to parents? What is your message to parents on how to ratify it or fix it or whatever it may be? What is your message?
uh, my message to parents has always been, well, it's two things. As far as the education part goes, and some people probably won't like but it's not your education, it's your child's education. That's the number one thing to remember. It's not about you, it's about your child. So you might not like something, or you might think something's okay, but do you think it's okay for your child? You might go down and get your driver's license and give away a bunch of information because you're good with that. You're good with that. I want to drive and I want to go do that. And you say, okay, I'll suck it up and I'll go get my driver's license. Right. Okay.
Mhm.
But when you're making school decisions, that's not you you're talking about. It's not based on what's best for you or what you're comfortable with. It's what you're comfortable with your child having to deal with 5 or 10 years down the road. Like you want to teach them how to brush their teeth when they're little, they're going to be doing it for the rest of their life. You send your kid to school, everything they do from here on out is going to be there for the rest of their life and then some. That's number one. Number two, every single year and every time you move your child from one school to a next, demand to see everything that goes from one school to the next. You have that right. Walk your happy ass up into the school and say, I want to bring me my student's file. And then if they're going to bring it to you. They have to by law. If they don't, oh, for the love of God, find a dadgum principal or somebody and say, this crazy person will not give me my student's file. Number one. Every year, check and making sure every one of your opt-out options is taken and given. If they don't have an opt-out form, write your own freaking opt-out form. Like I said at the beginning, take it up there, make them sign it, get a copy of it, put the school seal on it, and take control. If they know you are in control and that you are going to bug the daylights out of them, whether it be the guidance office or the principal's office, whoever, if they know you're on top of what's happening at the school, your child will not be messed with because you now just became a dangerous parent. Okay? They don't want to get sued. They just pay stuff off. Take control of your child and their education as if you were teaching them to brush their teeth. That's
Man,
all I got to say.
that is amazing. And Free says, great show. Terry's the sweetest person and such a great partner. Thanks for showcasing her brilliance. Free, you are much correct, but this was a much different conversation than the
Yeah.
show the other night when you were asking her where such and such person was 37 times. But I'm just, she wanted to kill you.
That was not going to be murder. I am not a violent person. I am not a violent person. It might have been a smack on the head. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, no, she wanted to beat your ass because you
No,
asked her what said person was like a lot of times, and it was so funny. But
I
no,
felt so bad.
Terry is the best. Terry is the best. I'm just being funny. I'm so glad I had this conversation with you. I wouldn't want to have it with anybody else, honestly,
Thank you.
seriously. And then Amity, such an informative show. Thanks, Terry. Please,
You're
you
welcome.
guys, like, share, follow, and subscribe to what's going on here. We're going to have many more guests like this, especially many more times of Teri Batts, because now I love her long time more than I already did after our 2-hour phone conversation. I don't love you one time. I don't love you. I love you long time. But no, this is great. Like, and we really, I don't want to sound like Whitney Houston, I believe the children are the future. You know what I mean? But like
That
at
they
the end
are.
of the day, they are. And the children are also going to be the ones wiping our asses when we're geriatrics. So let's reach out to them and try to show them a better way. So we're like not just sitting in our own filth. And I mean that to be funny, but very serious as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I just want to say one thing. My all-time favorite. I mean, I have a lot of experience in different areas that I'm always willing to share, or more willing to share than I used to be. And but I want everybody to know that my favorite thing to do is to work with Free on Are You Smarter Than a Politician and help get that word and stuff out. So it was kind of difficult for me to do this. I'm like stepping off the end of the pier and holding my nose, but I made it. And number two, if you look down below, how do you guys do that? Oh, okay. If you look down below, it says you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Teri Batts. That is to help pay for the road trips that Are You Smarter Than a Politician is going to be doing for, oh my gosh, the list keeps growing. Let's see, Georgia, California, North Carolina, Texas,
Michigan's in there.
Michigan. Well, that's the
That's a
national,
big one.
right? Yeah. But anyway, all that travel costs money. Everybody needs coffee to travel. So buy us some coffee, you guys, and help us get the word out on liberty, because that's the primary thing. And what I talked about tonight is part of your liberty.
That's right. And if you love me long time and want to buy me a beer,
Twice.
yeah,
I buy you. I love
yeah,
you long
like
time
no,
twice.
no, no. If you like what I'm doing, Buds of Reality, just like you see it on here at the bottom corner, except without the apostrophe on Cash App. If you like what I'm doing, buy me a beer, buy me a shot. I'm going to keep doing this regardless whether you buy me a beer or a shot.
Yeah.
But that would be very helpful. And I love you guys a long time. But Teri, thank you so much for your time. You've been a brilliant guest. You've had so much knowledge in this. And like I said, I wouldn't have wanted to have this conversation with anybody else but you. Love you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank
But,
you.
until next time, man, Christ is King, America only. Peace, love, and liberty, man. I'm out. Be good.